So welcome to Wool and Spinning. My name is Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as well for pearls. As you can see, this show is live streamed. It is live streamed twice a month through our Patreon platform for Patreon members. I want to welcome you to this place and welcome you to Wool and Spinning. If you're new to the show and just watching for the first time, I want to welcome you so much to the show and thank you for taking the time out to give us a shot. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for sticking with us month after month. If you're a Patreon member of the show, thank you so much for your ongoing support. Is what keeps the show going month after month. And if you want to learn more, you can go to patreon.com/4forpearls. On today's show, we've got quite a bit. I have a segment that we're going to insert, not right this second, but in a little bit, that is all of the giveaways and all the fiber for Tour de Fleece. I finally had a chance to sort through everything and get that all organized. So that is going to be an inserted video. And we have a tribute, like I just need to do a quick shout out. We have a giveaway that I just need to remind everyone about. And then we've got a whole bunch of stuff. So I've got this whole batch of fiber and yarn sitting right here to my right, your right as well. I've got a spin in progress. I've got some socks that I'm working on that I wanted to talk about really quickly. I actually got this llama yarn. I got it finished and washed and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to chat about that really quick. And I think that will take us right till the end. I do have a spinning growth this week. I think it'll be relatively quick because it's quite a... I think it's something that many of us have had happen to us. And so that's why I included it, because I wanted to show that it happens to all of us. So yeah, let's get right into it. So for the Tour de Fleece giveaway and all of that sort of housekeeping, we have 10 winners and a few are Patreon members. So please have a watch. I tried to keep it as quick as possible. So it's going to be inserted right here. Okay, Tour de Fleece giveaways. Congratulations to everybody who won. I have a whole bunch of stuff to give away. So let's start with some CVM. Let me just get everything out. Okay. Let's start with some CVM wool and tencel. It's all blended together. It makes this absolutely gorgeous yarn. Mari, who's part of our community, she donated a lot of this, and so thank you so much to Mari. I really appreciate it. She recently moved and was cleaning stuff out, and this stuff is gorgeous. So that's how it spins up. We have 4 winners. I have 4 bags of this to go out. We have post number 4. This is all from the Tour de Fleece chatter-free FO thread on the Ravelry group. Everybody could have participated in Tour de Fleece this year. It was open to everybody. Post number 4, Wool Hobby. Post number 23, Assemble Mine in Tea. Post number 5, Myri, M-I-R-I, who's Mari. It's funny that we have 2 Maris in the group, which is awesome. So post number 5. And post number 8, Yolanda Loves Yarn. You guys all receive one of these. If you could send me your mailing addresses, that would be awesome. Next up, we have some Surrey alpaca that was donated. It looks like a roving. I'm not, it's hard to tell. It's definitely not comb top. Bren Boone of Snurb Yarn, she has some stuff on her YouTube channel about combing Surrey and spinning off the comb. I would highly recommend that you give that a try if you have combs. And that is going to Prairie Fire Bird, which was post number 2. We also have this really gorgeous fiber going out. This is some carded nests of fiber. They're actually little batlings. Really, really, really pretty. The maker is the Silk Worker. This is silk and wool, I think is the blend. I can't remember. I made up these a couple days ago and now I'm forgetting. This is actually going to Eve, Ollie Cobb, post number 24. Congratulations, Eve. And then we have this fiber here. This is some Corriedale crossbreed. I've spun a lot of crossbreed over my time as a spinner. It's really, really enjoyable to spin. This is just really gorgeous. At first I thought it was a little bit coarse and a little bit rough, but it's actually really nice. I was running my hands through it. It's nice stuff. This is going to Erin at 5430 and post number 12. We also have some fiber that was donated to us from Becca, who is Bethy40 on Ravelry. And that is sort of some mystery fiber that she's going to put together, and that's going to post number 17, Frog Stitch. And we also have post number 6, Irium, which is also Mari, who donated all of this fiber. So I'm really happy that she came up in the random number generator. She's going to get some tunis from our friend Kelly, who's also part of the Patreon community. And we also have Louisette47, post number 19. You're getting some Black Welsh Mountain from Kelly as well. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you so much for participating this year in Tour de Fleece. Thank you to the community for coming forward with some prizes. I really appreciate it. And until next time, until next year, think about what you maybe want to spin in 2019, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again. So congratulations to everybody who won. I will be sending all that stuff out. Becca will connect with the winner to send out stuff from her, and then Kelly will connect. I will connect you guys with Kelly for the 2 people who won stuff from Kelly. So congratulations to everybody, and thanks again to Becca, Kelly, and Mari for contributing to the Tour de Fleece fiber so that we could have some prizes to give away. I really appreciate it. Tour de Fleece is sort of, for us in our community, it's very much a community driven thing. We have prizes if people contribute and if people give me stuff, and sometimes I have stuff to contribute. This year I didn't. We were away so much that what I really need to do is go through and I need to pull out absolutely every single piece of fiber that I have. All my wool, all my plant-based fibers, just everything. And I need to go through it and figure out what I want to keep and what I'm going to work with, and some stuff that I could pay it forward with and send along to you guys, because I know there's stuff in my stash that I would like to let go of. Because I'm never going to work with it, because I just don't have all the time in the world. I don't know what that's all about. I feel like I should. I'm sure you do too. So anyways, welcome to Shara and to Mary Elizabeth. Welcome to, I already said hi to Sharon. All right, so I wanted to say a really quick shout out to Kay of the Beatty Sisters podcast. And I also wanted to say a really special shout out to Tammy. You know who you are. You messaged me on Ravelry, and I sent you a message today, actually. Kay is a host of the Beatty Sisters podcast. I have to admit, it's not a podcast that I listen to. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts anymore. I just got so saturated with them. I love them. I think they're wonderful. I make one myself. But I actually, this is sort of some insight into like our daily life. I used to read like just a copious amount. I used to consume books. And then when I started knitting, I stopped. And I really, the last few years, have really missed reading. And so I got an Audible subscription, and I don't love Audible only because of how much it costs, and I think their production value is really high, but it costs a lot to have a membership. But it was a price that I was willing to pay so that I could listen to books that I want to read while I'm knitting and spinning. And so I actually listen to a lot of books now. So Kay of the Beatty Sisters podcast wanted to do a Pay It Forward, and so she asked for nominations from her community. Of other podcasters and videocasters that had influenced them in their journey. And Tammy from our community nominated me, and Kay chose me, or I won. And so she sent me this really lovely note that says, "Dear Rachel, thank you for encouraging others," from Kay. And she sent me this project bag, which is just awesome. So thank you so much. That really means a lot. And I haven't figured out what I'm going to do in terms of the paying it forward. I think we do a lot of pay it forward on the podcast by all the stuff that we do and all the giveaways and stuff. But I am thinking about it, and I wanted to say an extra special thank you to Tammy and to Kay. Your kindness really means a lot, and it was much appreciated. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to using this. So we have an October giveaway. Speaking of giveaways, we have an October giveaway going on. We didn't do one in September, so for October we're going to do 2 batches of fiber. It's going to go out. I was going to pull some stuff out of my stash that I've kind of set aside for giveaways. But then I actually started thinking that because we do so much on the podcast around like color management and different challenges around, you know, pushing yourself out of your comfort spinning zone, your spinning comfort zone, however you say that, and all that kind of stuff, I actually thought that I would maybe make a couple of things and then we give them away the first week in November. So I'm actually going to spend some time at my drum carder probably next week, maybe my blending board, maybe my hackle. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Anyways, and I'm going to blend some fiber together and make some crazy fun blends. And those will be our giveaways for the rest of the year. So for the October, there'll be 2 people because we missed September because of me being away in August. And then there will be November and December. And I thought I would just make like kind of like old school woolen spinning fiber club kind of style, because that was part of the Patreon when we first started the Patreon campaign. And I thought, you know what, that'd be really fun to kind of go back and do some of that stuff. And I can use up some of my fiber that I really want to manipulate and play with a little bit. And I'll be able to pay it forward and give it to you guys to play with. And I'm hoping I'll have enough that I'll have a couple of things that I can do some sampling with as well. So that's my plan. We will see if it actually happens, but that will be for October. So the October prompt, it'll be awarded in November. The October prompt is just tell me where you are. I have quite a fun way of choosing the person, the people, 2 people that will win for November. So it's not going to be random. But I will let you guys know next show who won and why. So get your entries in. That's open to everybody. You don't have to be a Patreon member, just anybody who's a member of the Ravelry community. And that's our Ravelry group. And it's linked down below in the show notes at patreon.com/wellforpearls or at wellforpearls.com. All right. Oh, hi, Mari. Good to see you. I need to text you back and I haven't. Nothing like a good old reminder of somebody popping into the live chat. So here in Vancouver, if you are local, here in Vancouver is Knit City this coming weekend. So it starts on Friday afternoon. It runs through till Monday. It's at the Peony Forum in Vancouver, just on Hastings. It's a massive knitting event. I would say it's very knitting heavy. There's not as much, there's barely any weaving. Although I think Jane Stafford has a booth this year again. She usually does, and she's well, if you're a weaver, you know who Jane Stafford is. She has a loom made name in her namesake by Louette. I think it's called the Jane. We do have 2 days to figure out our plan. You're right, Mari. But it's mostly knitting. Like, it's a very knitting heavy show. It was sort of, and it's really cool because a lot of designers who are local, they release a lot of their stuff at the show. So lots of new patterns come out for the fall. Some of the yarn shops from the island are there. It's just a massive, massive show. So if you're local and you can come, even if you're just down in Washington State and you've never been, I would highly recommend that you hop over the border, and especially with the dollar the way it is, your money will go quite far, and come up. Sunday is usually quite a bit quieter than Saturday, although last year it was pretty busy both days. I think they saw through like something like 5,000 people on Saturday alone. There's always just an amazing energy, really, really awesome. I don't know if I'm going to get there this year. We have some extenuating circumstances because of my parents and Mike. They've got a bunch of stuff going on, and I've got the kids basically from now until Monday. I'm sort of doing the single parent thing for 5 days. So I'm not sure that I really want to drag the kids through Knit City. I feel like that might be a recipe for disaster because they'll both go 2 opposite ways. So we will see how that goes and whether I get there or not. But if you get there, I'm totally jealous and have an amazing time. All right, what do we have in the show today? I would like to do a very brief spinning growth segment like I mentioned at the beginning of the show. I wanted to show you something that my dad made for me, and then I have 2 spins in progress, and I've got the socks that I'm working on that I wanted to chat about very quickly, mostly because, oh, they're not blue anymore, but my hands are turning blue from the knit, and I wanted to talk briefly about that. So let's get on with the show. Okay, so for spinning growth, I'm going to switch the cameras around. I don't have Eve here. Eve, you need to be here and tell me what to do and tell me when to switch my cameras. Welcome to Rachel. Okay. Hopefully you can see this. This is from MP Tang. I think her first name is Mary. She's been around right from the get-go. She's been part of our community for a really long time. She spun this as part of our actually, as soon as she posted the photo, I recognized it right away because she had posted in the Tour de Fleece thread a year ago, because it's from 2017, from Tour de Fleece last year. So I'm gonna read what she wrote, but before I do, I'm gonna ask you guys in the chat channel if you can just list off a couple of things that you initially see right off the bat about this spin that you maybe think that there's one or two things in particular that I think is very obvious. If you guys sort of look at it immediately and kind of can probably get a sense of what she wasn't very happy about. I'll tell you right now, it's Romney. It was Romney top, and she was going for a single, and in the end she ended up plying it, and I'll tell you sort of a little bit more about what she wrote. But I want to hear from you guys if you can kind of, just from looking at the yarn, you can't obviously touch it, which is too bad. That's one thing about not doing this in person. What maybe she's not super happy about, and I think it's obvious, but maybe it's not obvious to you guys, but I think it probably is to the more experienced spinners in the crowd. I made myself a hot cup of coffee right before we started the stream, and I'm actually getting to drink it like at the perfect temperature. So that's why I keep pausing and drinking, because it's like the perfect temperature right now. It's decaf. I can't drink caffeinated coffee. I was at Keith Urban last night. It was amazing. Anybody who's local to Vancouver knows Rogers Arena. It used to be GM Place. Usually people just call it the garage, because it used to be GM Place, GM Vehicles. It was just an amazing concert. We had so much fun. I went out with two girlfriends, and we were supposed to meet up with two other girlfriends, but they were actually on the other side of the stadium from us, and we just couldn't logistically get to each other. Anyways, it was really, really fun, and it's why my hair is actually done for once. Anyways, it was really, really good. So you guys have some great ideas. So density, is it heavy? It looks a bit overspun. You guys, see, I told you guys would know. So this is one of those really interesting spins where you can look at the photo, and you can sort of probably relatively quickly, you can probably sort of figure out what's wrong with it when you sort of know what the fiber is, and you can look at that twist angle and the thickness of the yarn. So her, I'll just read you what she wrote. Not the best photo, but this is last year's Tour de Fleece spin from a light gray Romney top. I was going for a singles, but it overspun, so made it a 2-ply instead. It's very heavy and overplied to boot. Thinking of removing some ply twist, over dyeing it, and making a felted bag or something. Too heavy for a garment. Great idea for a new segment, by the way. Thank you so much for that. So this is really interesting because Romney is one of the medium wools It comes like all wool, it's on a spectrum. You can get softer Romney, you can get coarser Romney, but in general, it's a medium wool. It's one of my absolute favorites to spin. I absolutely love it. Beth Smith, in her book, The Spinner's Book of Fleece, it's right up on my bookshelf, so I'm looking at it. There's a pair of Romney socks in there that are spun by Adrienne. What's her last name? But she does all those really cool colorwork mittens. She's Hello Yarn is her website. She does the Hello Yarn fiber club that nobody can get in on, like, because the waiting list is massive. She's just a gorgeous dyer, amazing fiber artist. She spun a pair of Romney socks, and those are photographed in that book, and they're just amazing. So a yarn like this, so Romney, because it's a medium wool, there's two things. It doesn't need a lot of twist. And number two, as long as I've never ever seen Romney superwashed ever. It's always 100% wool. You don't need to put in a lot of twist in it because it's slightly longer stapled anyways. It's got a bit of tooth to it. So it'll lock together. Those scales will hold on to each other before you get a chance to felt it or full it or whatever you're doing with it if you're going to spin it for singles. So it doesn't need tons and tons of twist to hold it together until you can get it to that stage. And there was something else I was going to say. And because it's medium wool, it's a little bit denser than, say, merino or cormo or rambouillet, débouillet. All of those wools are finer and they're lighter. They're not as dense. This is a medium wool. It's a little bit denser. It's not as dense as some of the long wools. Like if you guys remember from the breed and color study when we did the Gotland, how much denser the Gotland was compared to even the BFL. And BFL is more dense than merino. So it's not obviously as dense as like, say, the Gotland or like, you know, some of those other long wools, but it's definitely a little bit denser, and it's gonna, as soon as it takes a lot of twist, it's gonna turn into rope. And that's how they made rope. Like, you know, back in the day, you know, that's how they would make rope, is they would overspin these fibers. And then they would make really, you know, lots and lots and lots of strands, and they would twist them together, and that would make your rope. So with these types of fibers, as soon as you sort of think that it's overspun, and she wanted to leave this as a singles, but then she ended up plying it to try to balance that twist. If it had been me, with the value of hindsight and being able to look back, I think I would have left it as a singles, and I would have taken off some of it and washed it, fold it, done the whole thing, and then decide whether I was going to ply it or whether I was going to leave it as a singles, or take it off. This is one of my favorite techniques. It's a really, really fun technique, and it's from Sarah Anderson. She's the one, it's in her book. Oh, we're going to use this book twice today. This is kind of fun. I have it for something else I want to talk about on the show. She does this really cool technique where, and I've done it a few times. I did it on a yarn ink. It was a merino. I spun it as singles. It was a little bit felted already, so I fully felted it, and then I put it back through the wheel, and I took out all of the twist. So what you can do, this dark purple yarn in the corner. So this dark purple yarn down here in the corner is a singles that she spun as a singles, and then she washed it, folded it, fully felted it. So you have to secure the singles really, really, really well to do that. So you've got to secure it. Like maybe you secure your yarn in 2 places, maybe you secure your yarn in 3 or 4 places. If you're gonna felt your singles, you need to secure it in like 8 places. So like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, every 1/8 of the skein all the way around, because the singles can get quite jumbled up and quite they sort of stick together. So once you've felted it and it's dry, and by felted I mean like fully, like you can't pull it apart. It's like the fiber is locked together, not just fold, but like locked together. You can put it back through your wheel and take all the twist out of it, and then you've got a felted singles, and it's really super cool because it doesn't have any elasticity, and the singles is really like dense but not heavy because it's singles, and like it makes a great weaving yarn. You can knit with it. You don't want to knit anything where you need elasticity, but like you can do a lot with it. It's really quite cool. It works really well in ribbing because then you just have the elasticity of the knitted fabric. Anyways, you can do a lot. So just some ideas about like how, you know, you could have like, you know, you can attack some of these spins when you think that the singles are over twisted. The other thing you can do is reel it off your wheel, finish it, and then decide if it's over twisted, because often singles lose a lot in the water when you're washing it and fulling it. It loses a ton of its twist, so you think it's over twisted, and then you finish it and it's fine. And then the other thing is you don't have to take out all the twist when you put the singles back through the wheel. You can take out some of the twist. And she does say here that she's thinking about removing some of the ply twist and then over dyeing it and felting it. I would remove the ply twist, and you know, if you want to dye it, that's great too, but remove some of the ply twist, relax that twist angle, because right now it looks like it's at sort of, you know, 50 degrees. I'd say sort of 45 degrees. I'd relax it back to like 30 degrees, rewash it, and then see what you've got, because maybe you would have an awesome yarn for a toque or some mittens, a matching, you know, mitten set, an infinity scarf. Like there's so much you can do with it. So just a few ideas, and we've all been there. It's happened to all of us. That happened to me a lot when I was beginning. And I think we can all relate. So, all right. I know there's people there's just a couple of questions in the Slack channel about being able to participate in the live chat when you're on a mobile device. If you want to get into the chat, you've got to go all the way to the bottom. So scroll past the screen where I'm talking and scroll to the bottom, and it's all at the bottom. So that is often a problem. If you guys are ever having the problems with the links working and stuff, you can always click at the top of the Patreon post, and it'll take you directly into YouTube. That works. All right, thank you, Becca. This is why I need a co-host. I need somebody to sit on Skype with me, and I can plug in with them, and I can be like, oh, can you do, and have their voiceover, but not necessarily have another screen going. A lot of the tech podcasts do that, and they have somebody there so that they can be fielding stuff. And I totally get why they do that, because the more complicated the screens get, the harder it is to manage everything. All right, let's flip around our cameras. Okay, hopefully Helen and Karma have been able to get in. I appreciate that, Becca. Thank you so much. All right, my dad made me something. This is super fun. My friend Kim, she has one of these. It looks like a medieval torture device. It's not. It's a block of wood, and my dad did a really beautiful job. Actually, I'll put it down here. Let me move this stuff, and then I can talk to it. That's why I made the camera bigger. So it's a base here of wood, and he put these metal rods through it for me. And the whole purpose of it is to put all of my weaving bobbins on. So if you take, of course, Murphy's Law, I don't have any weaving bobbins right here. Sorry, it just isn't coming off. So the bobbins sit down like this. Let me just turn this so you guys can see. So the bobbins sit down here. Obviously this is too big to fit more than 2 on here, or maybe I could probably fit on 3. I could probably put 1, 2, 3 for these big Majacraft bobbins. But the weaving bobbins, I can fit all of them all the way around. So the whole purpose of this is, so my friend Kim has one. One was made for her. She got it all made. And the cool thing about it is that when you've got a bobbin full of singles, so this is a great example here. I have a bobbin full of singles. There's roughly 66 grams on here because the braid was quite generous. The braid was 124, 128 grams. It was quite a big braid. And when I wind these off onto my weaving bobbins, because for this yarn, I'm going to do that. And I'll explain that in a few minutes why I'm going to do that and wind this off onto weaving bobbins. If the yarn doesn't fit on one weaving bobbin and you end up with these weaving bobbins that are like, have these big bumps of fiber on them, what can happen is what happened to me a few months ago with my Suffolk yarn, where it just completely bounced right off the end. And so on this thing here, I can put all of my weaving bobbins on here, and I can have them all, and I can actually have them like, so I might have like six weaving bobbins. So I might have like 6 on here, and have like, and weaving bobbins are quite small. So for people who know what they look like they're about the same height as these bobbins, but they're quite a bit smaller. They have smaller ends. And so like the yarn can jump off the end if you overload them. So if you load up 4 or 6, 5 bobbins of all of your singles, I can put them all on here, and then I can ply off of here. So I can take like, say these 3 and ply off of them. I'm trying to fit all the spokes on. So I could ply off of like these 3. And then when those are done, say this one ran out, then I could connect this one up. And then when this one's done, I could connect, you know what I mean? So it's like a little Lazy Kate, but for weaving bobbins. Isn't that cool? And then he put some washers on the bottom down here to lift the bobbins up a little bit so that they're not scraping along the wood, because I was finding, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get it to do it. Oh, of course it's not doing it. This Lazy Kate back here, which is my Magic-Craft Lazy Kate, I put some washers on because it was making this screeching sound, and they just like shift, make this awful sound as they're turning, because the weaving bobbins are really, really small. So they turn really, really quickly. Whereas when you've got a singles like this, like if your bobbin is chock-a-block right up to the top, you've got a long way to pull those singles off all the way around, and your bobbins don't travel as quickly until they get down to that center core. So on this, when you've got the little weaving bobbins and they can turn freely, it works really super well. So I've already used it. I used it when I plied my Suffolk, and I sent it back to my dad to ask him if he could put the washers on, and he did, and it fixed it. So then I wanted to talk about it on the podcast, because if there's anybody out there who has a super handy bent for, woodworking, or have a partner or a friend who's a woodworker, this is quite easy to make. So, and it's just, we put 6 on here. We could have done 8, but it would have made it a little bit bigger. But we just wanted to put enough space in between that the weaving bobbins wouldn't touch, because I use, I have Ashford weaving bobbins, and I also have Leclerc weaving bobbins, and the Leclerc ones are a little bit bigger. The base of them is sort of more like this, whereas the Ashford ones are kind of more like this. So it's a pretty big difference. So you just have to measure like how much diameter you need in between your 2 bobbins, half of the radius, and then you know how much space you need to put in between, and how big you need to make your hexagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, it's very cool, and it's light. It's actually quite. It's not heavy at all, but a cool thing. Yeah, the washers are a great idea. I used washers on my Lendrum Lazy Kate too, because I found that over time they made that screeching sound, and it was just so awful. Okay, this spin. There is some background to this spin. So, yes, greasing the bars helps. You're right, Mari. So the Magic-Craft Lazy Kates, they do make a really bad screeching sound. I wish I could make it make the sound, because it's truly awful. Of course, it won't make it. I'll record it for you guys. How's that? Greasing it helps, but I actually find that the washers help too. They make a big difference. All right, so this spin. We were at Guild on Tuesday night, and there's a group of us that go together, and some are members of the Patreon community because they're really, really close friends of mine. And one of them is a newer spinner, but she's really taken off. Like, she's a natural, trust me. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you need to. Her username is Kelsey Tremblett. I will put it down here so that you guys can see, and you can go over to Instagram and you can click follow because she's amazing. She's very, very talented. So she's a weaver. So she's not really a spinner, she's a weaver. And I sold her my shacked matchless. I was really torn about doing it. I really didn't want to let my matchless go. She was looking for a wheel. She needed a production wheel, and she needed what I would call sort of an advanced wheel, a wheel that she could grow on very, very quickly. Because like I said, she's a natural. And I just didn't have the space to keep my matchless, and I really wasn't using it. And I kept my sidekick. And I have to admit, in my heart of hearts, I probably will buy a matchless again at some point when I'm feeling like I have a little bit more time and space to make, because I miss it. And I love that wheel. I love the ability to be able to do the double drive on it, and I don't have a wheel right now that can do double drive. But that said, I sold it to her, and her spinning has just taken off. So she kind of went like this for a while in terms of like her learning, and then all of a sudden she just took off. So at the guild meeting, her and Mari and Jess and Katrina we were all sitting together, and my friend Leah, who's a beginning spinner, she's brand new, wish her luck. She's just going to start learning next week. And we were all sitting there, and Kelsey all of a sudden pulled out these 4 skeins of yarn, and she started showing them to us. And they were all done out of Cheviot, and there was a couple of 4 plies, 1 3 ply, and then a 4th 3 ply. And she's been working on them over the course of the last month or so, and she naturally dyed them, and she was telling us what she used for dye stuffs and so on and so forth, because she's a big dyer. I would say like she's a weaver, a knitter, a weaver, a dyer, and then a spinner. That's kind of like where I would like sort of say she is. Anyways, I was looking at the yarn, and on my bucket list for the last year has been to do a 3 ply with an opposing ply, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. But she had done one, and so one of the 4 yarns was an opposing ply 3 ply. So she bought this book. If you don't own this book and you're not a true beginner, but sort of on your like way to becoming a more intermediate spinner, I would highly recommend this book. I have used it a ton. It's all stickied, and I've got lots of stuff written in here. My friend Diana uses it a ton. It's just a really inspirational book. It's not a book that you would sit down and read. It's more a book that you would sit down and work at a chapter and like work your way through those yarns from that chapter. So I had already started spinning this. This is Superwash Merino. It's from my stash, and it's created by LCB. She's on Etsy. She's got a I don't think she's selling on Etsy anymore. I think she's using her own website for selling now. Anyways, beautiful dyer. And after talking to Kelsey and seeing her Cheviot, because you guys know how much I love Cheviot, and I've been knitting up my Suffolk yarn, and it's driving me batty, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And I had already started the singles for this, and I divided up the fiber 3 ways, because I've been really enjoying this sock spinning and sock yarn and just exploring all of that. I've been just really enjoying that this year. And so I thought I'm going to try to find and pull out all of my superwash yarn out of my stash. You know, whatever the blend is, doesn't matter. I'm just going to pull all of my superwash yarn out, and I'm going to set it aside, and I'm just going to like tick off my bucket list of all the sock yarns that I want to make, and this is one of them. So when I saw Kelsey's, it kind of lit a fire under my butt a little bit, and I was like, I got to get that done. So these 2 bobbins are roughly 34 grams, 35 grams, whatever I said earlier. It was a big braid of fiber. And they're both spun Z twist. So they're both spun with the wheel going clockwise, which I think is opposite for you guys, the way that I'm explaining it. But basically your wheel is going to the right. So usually the way that most people are taught to spin singles, those two were spun with my wheel going to the right. Z twist clockwise. The third bobbin, which is on my wheel, which I was working on when we first started the live stream, is going to be spun S twist. So it's going to be spun anti-clockwise with the wheel going to the left. So every time I sit down to spin, I automatically start the wheel going to the Z because I'm spinning singles, right? So I have always spun singles going Z twist. So that's been super annoying. So I've been spinning to the right. Let me just put the book in the camera here, and then for those of you who've not seen this book, you can write it down and write down Sarah's name, because it's S-O-N for Anderson, not S-E-N. So anyways, so I'm on my last bobbin. I was really hoping I would have this done today, but the reason why I wanted to talk about this book really quickly is because she actually talks about this opposing ply yarn in the book, and it, like I said, it's been on my bucket list for a while. And she has a pair of socks in the book, and I'll show it to you. Have you guys written it down? I hope so. I'm going to read what she writes. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to do opposing ply yarns, and I want to talk about opposing plies in just a sec. Here's the page that introduces, these are all the opposing ply yarns that she made for the book. Isn't that amazing? All the different ones. So over here is the traditional 3-ply with the opposing ply. So that's what it'll look like when it's done. It's that one right there. You can see how it's kind of jumpy and a little bit, there's that one ply that just doesn't lay nicely with the other ones. So she says, most plied yarns are designed to balance out. For instance, when 2 Z twist yarns are plied with an S twist, the twist leaves the singles and reappears in the ply. When 2 Z twist yarns are plied with an S twist, the twist leaves the singles and reappears in the ply. The individual fibers return to a relaxed state and active twist is neutralized. So with opposing ply yarns, you're not neutralizing the twist. You're keeping that twist very much active because there's nothing for those singles to relax with. So that's what makes them so cool. And I would encourage you to pick up this book, even if you find it from your library, get it from your local guild. There's lots and lots of ways to get a book like this. So in this section, she actually has a little special write-up about opposing ply sock yarn, because that's what she uses it for. So I'm just going to read really quickly. The Great Sock Yarn Experiment Part 2, Opposing Plied Yarn. My question was, because more twist makes the ply harder, does it add durability to the yarn also? So she knit one sock with a traditional 3-ply yarn, and then she knit another sock with an opposing ply. So you can see that there's the 2 socks there. And the opposing ply yarn socks look exactly the same as the traditional 3-ply. The only difference is that the sole of the foot is maybe not as smooth as the traditional 3-ply, but honestly, to the untrained eye, they look exactly the same. So the extra elasticity in the test yarn was nice, even though its appearance wasn't as smooth as the traditional 3-ply. A less smooth yarn didn't make much difference in the look of the sock, but it did fit a little bit more snugly, which I thought was interesting, than the sock knit with the traditional 3-ply. And I think that's probably because of that extra elasticity, because it's really going to mold to your foot, right? So in the end, the sock that had the opposing ply, let me just focus this. I really hope you guys pick up this book. I've talked about this book before on the podcast. No Signs of Wear. This is the heel of the opposing ply, and this is the heel of the traditional 3-ply after wear. And it's like she says in the write-up, it was a while. She wore them for a while. But isn't that fascinating? So my plan is, we are in the middle of our sock study on Patreon, and I have my 3 pairs of socks that I'm going to start wearing as soon as the 3rd pair is knit up. I have one more sock to do. I'm going to start wearing them, and I'm going to keep the little experiment going, and I'm going to throw these ones into the mix once they're done and once they're knit up, and see how they wear in comparison. Because these ones are superwash merino, which is one of the fibers that I don't like for socks, because it's superwash and there's no elasticity and bounciness left in it, because it's all taken out from the superwash process. And I was going to see how do they stand up in relation to the other ones. So very cool. So that's sort of my little what's going on right now. It's been a while since I felt really excited about something and been excited about spinning. And I think it's just because the summer was so busy and I really haven't had any time to focus on anything or to really stop and reflect on some of this stuff. And so when Kelsey had her yarn out at the Guild, I felt really excited for the first time in a while. So did you mention the base of the fiber? That, yeah, this particular one is superwash merino. All right, I'm just catching up on the pop-up because there's quite a bit of chatter and I just don't want to miss anything. Okay. Yeah, it is a classic, isn't it, Becca? It's one of those books that, like, once you're ready for it, you're really ready for it. I used it quite a bit during the first breed and color study that we did with Farm Fairy Fiber. I went through it and just picked a whole bunch of yarns that I wanted to try, and it was fun. It worked out really well, and I learned a lot. And now I'm kind of ready to go back into the book and do some more. My friend Diana and I were actually talking. We were kind of tossing around some different ideas. She blogs over at 100 Mile Wear, my friend Diana Twist. We were kind of talking about maybe doing, spending some time next year either working through this book or working our way through this book together and kind of doing a reflective study together. And we're still talking about it. We haven't had a chance to connect to talk more about it, but I think I'm going to do something like that next year. I think I'm going to do some sock stuff next year again and pull out all, like I said, all that superwash fiber out of my stash. I love how all of her samples were from white or undyed fiber. It makes the structure so clear. I think that's what makes the book so useful, is because she did do all the fibers on, all the yarn is done on white and undyed fiber, just on top. So it's all this white. And so you can really see what's going on in the yarn, and it makes a huge difference to the person looking at it from a learning perspective. Yeah, it takes a while. So Rachel says, I have this book, but I haven't really read it. Crack them open. I know what you mean. I have a whole bunch too, and it's taken me a really long time to get through them. And I think the reality is there's only so much time. You know, we can only do so much. Oh, okay. So Becca says she could use some structure to push herself next year. It would be really cool to do something where we could really push ourselves out of our comfort zone. I really like the idea of working through that 51 Yarns book, because it starts off with like your really basic hand spun yarn. I think it starts off with your default yarn. And so for the beginners in the crowd, if this appeals to you, please speak up in the Ravelry group on this episode thread, because this could be something that we could do sort of as a community, because like you start off just spinning some fine wool, something out of your stash, fine wool, then the next week you do medium wool, and then the next week you do long wool. You know, you can use small bits of fiber. You don't need to buy massive amounts. You could use some smaller amounts and just do some samples. You don't need to commit to spinning an entire 4-ounce braid. So it might be something for us to think about, and maybe working our way through the 51 yarns. I have to try to figure out how we could organize that so that some people aren't on week 1 and some people aren't on like week 30. We'd have to figure out a way to kind of keep it organized. I will think about that. Let me think about that. All right. Oh, Becca, you got a wheel. What wheel did you get? I missed that. Getting her wheel delivered soon. Oh, that's awesome. So, congratulations. All right. Yeah, 51 yarns. It can be intimidating, but I think it would be great to do it as a community. All right, let's move on. Llama. I finished this skein last week. I had just plied it. It was fresh off the wheel. This is Llama and Silk. I can't remember the blend. I was going to try to find out, but I can't remember. It's here somewhere. Oh, that's right. It doesn't say. Llama roving with silk. We'll never know. I feel like it's probably like 15%, maybe 20%. It's definitely not 25%. I mean, maybe it is, but I don't know. I don't think so. Anyways, I finished it and I reskeined it. I never reskein yarn. So this is, and it came out just absolutely beautifully. So remember how twisted it was last week? It's balanced. It's perfect. It's gorgeous. I reskeined it because when I had pulled it off, so Llama doesn't have any elasticity and neither does Silk. So there's nothing to, it doesn't bounce back. Like it doesn't, it just is what it is. So it, when I took it off my wheel last week and I put it on the Nitty Naughty, I wasn't really paying attention to how I was winding it. Cause you might remember I was doing it at the beginning of the live stream while we were waiting for people to come. And, I didn't do a very good job. I just wanted to get it off. So I skeined it because it was all like, some of it was like the strands were quite long. Some of them, they were short because they were pulled tighter. And I wanted to see what my yardage was. So this is 200 yards, which I was surprised about. I didn't think it was 200 yards, but it is. It's 200 yards. So I am going to have some pretty hefty yardage. And this is spun. It ended up coming out a light DK sport weight. I think it's more sport than it is DK. I think it'll knit up like a sport weight, but I'll probably knit it as a DK to get that drape. Like I said, it's got no elasticity. And it's, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I was originally thinking a shawl, the swallowtail. Now I'm not so sure because I'm going to have so much yardage. So, and I don't have my, oh, I do. Oh, flat iron. Good choice, Becca. That's awesome. Did you get a chance to try it? That's amazing. Congratulations. You're going to be so happy with it. Okay, so this came out as a... I would say it's 15 wraps per inch. It's smaller than 14, but bigger than 16. And I'm just checking it with my Sukhoplaki control card, spinner's control card. They're available at Sukhoplaki on Etsy. Alexi is a lovely person. He is wonderful. They come from Finland. I've talked about them on the show before. So anyways, so yeah, 200 yards. And that was like barely any spinning. And I have a pound of this yarn. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I'm not sure I want a llama sweater. So I may just make the yarn and then put it on my mantle in one of my glass vases that I always put my yarns in after they're finished. And I may just look at it and we'll see. The problem with the camelids, llama, alpaca, some of the other ones, I don't love the finished yarn. Like they're gorgeous yarns, don't get me wrong. Gorgeous yarn, but I don't really like knitting with them. So I was thinking maybe weaving, but it would make quite a heavy scarf. I wouldn't have enough for a blanket, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. But regardless, it finished up beautifully and it's totally balanced. So that goes to show you quite a bit of twist doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be an unbalanced skein. This is still balanced. So, you know, remember that when you're plying that sometimes, like I was plying to a specific ply twist. I wanted the twist angle. I wonder if I can zoom in for you. I wanted the twist angle to be roughly 35 to 40 degrees. I didn't want it to be too tight because I knew that it would become too dense. But I wanted it to be really even. I just want to pet this. It's like a little animal. Anyways, I'm really happy with how it turned out. But I'm going to have a lot of yarn when I'm finished spinning all of this. And I still have over 3/4 of the bump left. And I didn't strip the roving or anything. I've talked about this spin in other shows, so I'm not going to go into like a huge amount of detail, but I'm going to have a lot of yarn. I meant to do the grist for you guys, but I didn't get a chance to weigh it, so I'll do that for next time. I'll post it on my project page. No, gloves wouldn't be good because you need elasticity for gloves. I find I don't like when they don't have any. I prefer wool for gloves. That's just me. Somebody else might like it. I think it would be a bit too heavy. Socks. All right. They're almost done. Let me just focus the camera. So this is my Suffolk yarn that I spun. This was, we indigo dyed this, episode 99B. We indigo dyed it with a chemical vat. It wasn't an organic vat. The dye is coming off of my hands, something terrible while I'm knitting. So at Guild, I was knitting, I knit almost all the way up the foot, and my hands were totally blue. So it's a bit annoying. It doesn't transfer onto anything. It's not like I get the blue on my hands, and if I go like this, I now have blue on my shoulder. It's not like that at all. It just washes off. But it's going to be a while until there's no residue and until there's nothing that comes off. And of course, the sweatier my hands get, the more it comes off on my hands. But I really love how the resist is knitting up. Isn't that gorgeous? It's really, really pretty. So I had tied the skein in a knot and left these, and that left these little hints of white. It's not pooling at all. I was worried it might pool. It's not. It just looks really pretty. I know it's dark. Sorry. Maybe I should hold them up here. You can see it even more on this camera. If you want me to switch over to this, I can. So anyways, yeah, aren't those pretty? They're really turning out well. And there's no pooling, like I said. Even on the heel, there's no pooling. This is the little nubbin of a heel. Yeah, they're dark. They're way darker than what's coming up on the camera, but it's because I have it, I blow out the camera a little bit so that it's nice and bright for you guys to be able to see. So these are quite a bit darker. But regardless, they are really turning out well. I normally would have knit the leg a little bit longer before I started the cuff, but I couldn't handle knitting this anymore. And the reason is because I probably should have gone up to a 2.5 millimeter needle. The 2.25 is making an incredibly dense fabric. These are so thick that they could stop a bullet. They're so thick. And they're hurting my hand a little bit to knit with. So I have to admit, I'm not really looking forward to making the other one. The fabric is just so dense. But that said, they're going to be really, really, really warm, and they're going to wear really super well because this is a 3-ply Suffolk, and I spun it woolen, so they're going to be even warmer because they're woolen spun. And because they're so thick, they'll be able to go in the washer, and I won't have to worry about them. I have a woolen cycle on my washer. I may or may not have bought my washer and dryer for that specific reason. Katrina has the same washer and dryer, and she's like, trust me, it's worth it. So for anybody who's wondering, they're Mila. Anyways, they have, because our washer and dryer, I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast, our washer and dryer died in August. So on top of everything else, with us being away, our washer and dryer died. Our dryer went first, and then a couple weeks later, our washer went, which was kind of timely because then we have to do everything all at once, right? So I'm very excited about my new washer and dryer, and it's been a long time coming. I've never had a new washer and dryer ever, so it's kind of exciting. Anyways, the woolen cycle on them is the best on the market. Those Europeans, they know how to, they know about wool. So I'm going to be able to put these in the wool wash on. It's a cold, gentle cycle, and it just like swishes the wool around on the bottom. So I wouldn't put anything that's like 100% wool in there. It would probably still agitate it with the soap. But any of my superwash stuff and any of this kind of stuff is going to go in the wash. So I will report back on how they withstand. So Mila is the washer and dryer that we got, and we there's a lot, like in Canada, we're really limited with what we can choose for the different models and brand and from Mila because it's not a North American company. So we got there's only one option for a vented dryer in North America from Mila, so we got that one, and then the washer is the whatever the base model is, because we didn't need any of the fancy stuff, so it's the base model of the washer. So if you're curious, I don't know if you're washer and dryer shopping and you want to be able to wash wool, the only thing is that they're apartment sized. So we don't have the space for a full-size washer and dryer. The washer and dryer that we had in there were what would have been a full size 12 years ago, but now they're even bigger. And, you know, let's face it, most people in North America have big spaces. Although that's changing here on the West Coast, and at least in the Vancouver area. And I know that's changing in places like San Francisco and LA, and particularly in like places like New York. But anyway, so because the washers and dryers are getting so big, none of it fits in our space. So the only option was to go to an apartment sized. So because we had to go to an apartment sized washer and dryer, I was like, well, I'm getting what Katrina has. It's not really how it happened. It just so happened that that's what fit. And so I was able to get the wool wash, and it has been everything that all the reviews said that it would. It has been everything that all the reviews said. So anyways, so silly, but really important when you have as much wool in your house as we all do. So, okay. Yeah, Mari, if you have any questions, you can pick me and Katrina's brain in November. Because, yeah, they're worth it. They're more expensive, but they're worth it. All right. Oh, yeah, totally. They're like tie-dye. That's exactly what they're like. Yes. Thanks, Becca. Okay. All right. I think... Oh, this is my Spinach control card for my Created by LCB. So my question there, so my goal is a 3-ply sock yarn, tight ply twist, and query whether or not it's harder wearing or not. So that's I've started putting on my cards. If I'm trying to learn something or attain a certain goal, I've been writing it on my cards because I'm finding that I'm getting it mixed up with different projects. Because like this sock project, I had 5 on the go all at once. I know it's crazy. I had one for the September content. No, sorry, one for the October content, 2 for the November content, and 1 for the December content, plus this. So I had all these different projects going at once. And so I started writing down what my goals were. So if you have a lot of projects on the go and you've got your control card that you've written up to tell you exactly what you're doing, what tool you're using, what ratio you're on, all that kind of stuff, I would really encourage you to also write down what you're hoping to achieve with the yarn. With my sweater back here, which I need to pick back up again, but I wanted to get all these socks knit first, and I don't dare knit this white yarn when I'm working with this. There's like, just watch, it'll all end up being blue. So I just put this on hold while I finish up these. I wrote on my Spinach control card, I wrote down that I was going to knit the sparkle cardigan afterwards, like after I'd finished spinning. I wrote down like for the sparkle cardigan, this gauge, these needles, you know, this is the, I wanted like a, 2-inch positive ease minimum because I wanted it to be a little bit more like sort of comfy. I wanted it to be nice and really pretty, but I wanted it to be something that I would go to and I would wear a lot. So anyways, I've started writing that down on my cards. So just a little tip. All right. I think we are going to call it a day. We have been chatting for almost an hour, and I need to get this edited. It will be available tonight for patrons, and it will be released on Friday publicly with the show notes. So if you have any questions in the meantime and you're watching it and you're wondering about something, just pop a comment on Patreon on this post for those of you who are patrons of the community, and I will try to answer before Friday. And if not, wait till Friday. There will be some links to projects that I talked about. I'll try and link these books if I remember. And until next time, happy spinning. Bye, everyone.